So let's continue streamlining SKT right now. Starting with a pit stop right after Tribor, Yartar. What I'll be helping you with in this video is getting to Yartar, setting up the quest, and customizing the lair for the Kraken's Gamble, a DM supplement from the DM's Guild. Link down in the quest board below. I'll just get it out of the way right now. The Kraken's Gamble is such an amazing mini adventure that will allow your players to socialize, explore, and fight their way through an amazingly well-written tie-in for the Kraken cultists. You can use this supplement in two ways. Either as a level 6 adventure to foreshadow the Kraken society, or if you've already passed this point in the campaign, it can be a great way for your players to find Hecaton's whereabouts instead of just going to Dryland. But in the case of the latter, you're gonna have to increase the challenge a little bit. But be warned, this mini adventure has a reputation of being either very deadly or very easy. Really depends on the type of players you have and the synergies in the party. If you have a party of 5 min-maxers at level 6, then it's probably going to be a cakewalk, especially if you don't play the Aboleth to its full potential. Anyways, let's get on with the show. If your players have just finished Golden Fields, then give them the plot hook that's mentioned in the adventure. No need to veer away from it at all. If your players are coming in through Tribor though, then they've just finished with the Fire Giant encounter there, and probably have no idea what to do in Yartar whatsoever. You'll need a different plot hook, and I'll try to summarize it here. You'll need someone from a noble house who's put up a reward for finding their lost son who disappeared like 2 days ago. Let's call them House Everfall, a family of noble Autumn Eladrin, who are like opera singers and performers. The lady of the house, let's call her Airi, welcomes them and asks for their help in finding her son Ivan. When your players take up the quest, they may ask for something along the lines of, how much gold are you offering? And here, don't be stingy. It's a mother trying to find her missing child. Say this: I offer you 1,000 gold pieces each if you manage to bring me back my son. If the players are a bit exploitative, then with a high intimidation roll of 18 or above, or persuasion, really depends on what the players say and do here, Airi will make it 1,225 gold per person. If they push even more beyond that, then she says she unfortunately cannot offer more than that at this time. And she lets a tear fall down her eye as she tells her butler to kindly escort the esteemed people out of her mansion. If that happens, then you don't give them this quest. What can I say? Don't give them this quest. And let them tally onwards towards Everland. Because if your players don't bite at an obvious plot hook that you've prepared, then who has time to just improv something out of the blue? Social contract and all. Just drop in Zephyros as soon as they leave Yartar. What they don't know is Airi is ready and willing to give everything to those who save her son. If they don't antagonize her and quickly answer her plight, then when Ivory is brought back safe and sound, she'd give the players items that have huge sentimental value to their family and would let them rest up in her home whenever they pass by Yartar in the future. In short, they would be treated as kings. After they accept this quest, you can follow the leads already written out in the adventure, because it's amazing. Have I mentioned it's amazing yet? I feel like I haven't. If you're already past this point in the adventure, don't fret, you can still have this be the quest to find Hecaton, with a little tweaking. Why should they terrorize Dryland into giving them the location when they can beat it out of Usith instead? That's way more fun and way more dangerous. Afterwards, this is where we'll be changing things. When the party enters the sewers, you mainly have 5 encounters here. 4 actually. The Psychic Oozes in S1, the Kuatoas in S3, the Otyug in S2, the Glyph of Warding in S5, and then, last but not least, the Aboleth. So let's go through these one by one. The Psychic Ooze isn't really a threat to the party, more so a threat to their weapons, as the cumulative -1 penalty to any non-magical weapon that hits them is actually huge in the long run. If it happens to the fighter or the paladin, then it's gonna be one hell of a ride. But at level 6, they should be easy to dispatch, honestly, even if they get a surprise round. At higher levels, 2. The Kuatoa. Again, by themselves aren't really a threat, as they'll usually jump out of the waters when the Otyug surprises the party, and they'll fight until they drop in defense of their god and savior, Usith. 3. The Otyug. It lunges out when the party picks up an item in S2. Again, it's not much of a threat on its own for a party of 4 or 5 level 6 either. But what we are doing here is forcing the players to use their resources so that they don't just nuke Usith. During this fight, the Kuo-toa will jump in, which is why you actually have 4 encounters instead of the written 5. The numbers could get a little dicey, but again, not really. Clerics can out-heal the damage pretty quickly. Moon Druids and Barbs can tank anything they get, and Paladins and Fighters can bring in the hurt. Oh yeah, Fireball is a thing. Number 4, the Glyph of Warding in S5. This is a simple trap, nothing to write home about, but it will be the last place where your party will be able to use up resources before the big fight. So don't remove it, even if your players got battered up. I don't know how that might happen, but hey, could be a bad day. And eventually, they'll reach the Aboleth, Usith. Now, this is where I'm going to take my time, as should you. Because Usith is an Aboleth, the fight would actually truly begin when the players reach his lair at the beginning of the sewers. Check out the Aboleth stat block in the monster manual. You'll see it's very underwhelming, unfortunately, but its strengths come from its ability to control other creatures. And the fun of the Aboleth, for any DM, is making its region feel extremely unnerving. So let's try and do that, shall we? The party walks through the sewers. Following the Lady in Purple's directions, the stench is almost unbearable, but the safety of the realm is far more important than their own personal hygiene. As the sounds of the waters continue to assault their ears, they suddenly feel a change in the air. The stench becomes worse, the water almost turns silent, and whoever is leading the party, let's call him Chuck, suddenly steps on something slimy. As their foot sinks just a little, they look down and see that they've stepped in what appears to be gray slime. And then, Chuck, roll a wisdom saving throw. You literally see the face of an adventurer ready to grind their enemies into a pulp shift in confusion. This is the beginning of Usith's regional effects that will continue to harrow the party so long as they are in this part of the sewers. For this saving throw, 2 things can happen, depending on whether Chuck saves or fails. If Chuck makes the save, he'll feel an immense force bearing down on his mind that he just barely manages to push out and protect himself from, and as a result, stumbles one step further into the slime and stands there in anticipation of another round of mind bombing. But it never comes, as anyone who saves will be immune to this effect for the next 24 hours. If Chuck fails, his mind is suddenly bombarded and he sees the following. You float amongst the unruly waves of the sea, watching the land before you, barren and unsullied by any forms of life. You feel bored, you feel unfulfilled, and then one day you witness a hand pushes out from the mud and begins to crawl. Soon after, another follows suit, and before long, the first of them crawl out of the mud. They catch your interest. You watch them as the ages pass. They survive, reproduce, form communities. How amusing. These little creatures are doing their utmost to survive and just live. If you could just help them, they could become much, much more. You then tell the other players that Chuck suddenly froze up as you ask him for another wisdom saving throw. If Chuck fails again, you can continue narrating the previous scenario. What we're doing here is showing the players parts of the Aboleth's memories. The first Aboleth's memories, as they watched the first of the elves, humans, and dwarves emerge from the mud, and its interest in enslaving them to give them a higher and greater purpose, serving it and its future children. What's greater than serving the greatest of all creatures in the realm before the descent of the gods? Nothing. Whenever someone steps on the slime that now currently coats the whole 5-foot walk path, walls, and ceilings, they'll need to make a wisdom saving throw, which will show them a little of the Aboleth's memories until they save. Once they do save, they are immune to this effect for 24 hours. Let's say they manage to avoid this until they begin to fight Usith or any other fight in the suit. If they fail the save in a battle, just consider them incapacitated until they succeed on a wisdom saving throw. Basically, I use this in place of the Aboleth stat block's Phantasmal Force lair action. What are we doing here? Several reasons. First of which is, I hate telling players they are seeing an illusion mid-fight, and they must act accordingly because sometimes they'll look for metagamey ways to avert the phantasmal force if they fail to save. It happens when they are charmed or commanded, and I wasn't being specific when I told them what their characters feel they should do. So for this instance, since I'm going to mainly focus on the repositioning aspects of Usith's lair actions and not gonna be going for Phantasmal Force anyways, I had decided to make this change, which also allows me to give some more lore about the Aboleths and their animosity towards the gods. Secondly, to build up the encounter with Usith, so as to inform the players that this will be a dangerous fight, and if on the off chance the characters have done any research beforehand and know what an Aboleth may be, then this little stunt just solidifies that an Aboleth is in the area, in case the diseased water, the slime on the surfaces, wasn't a sure tell, which it probably isn't. After Chalk finally makes the save, or when other party members pull him out of the slime, the party now has to navigate the slime-ridden area. Before them, 30 feet away, is a stepladder that leads down deeper into the tunnels. It's up to your players to figure out how to navigate this obstacle. You don't need to have a solution for it, just see what they try, and if you feel an idea is cool enough, let it rock. Let your players' interesting solutions work. That way, they'll feel smart for figuring it out, and then they'll think you're a genius for making it this way. When in reality, you and I both know we ain't. So, now that they've found a way to navigate the place, they'll head towards Usith. You can follow the module to a T because it's such a well-written adventure. Yes, I'm saying that again. And now I'm going to try and give you insight on how to make the actual fight with Usith borderline deadly. I must preface this. I don't set out to kill my players' characters, but at the same time, I won't let an Aboleth be a minor battle. I designed and tweaked the scenario to make Usith an absolute beast when fought in his lair. And the result was an extremely hard-fought battle in which the win was bittersweet. A character was lost, but the day was won, and now the players are thirsty for vengeance on the rest of the Kraken society and the Great Old One. This is why I may go a bit overboard in making sure the fight is tough for the party. Now, let's set the scene, shall we? You climb, fly, drop down the stepladder, and reach a room that has the sound of running water all around. The place is currently not lit by anything other than 2 torches in the far end, so as to hide the enslaved Meros on either side. If your players are higher than level 6, let's say 8 or 9, then make them 2 scum instead. And the torches reveal the silhouette of a man in his 40s. Deep red aristocratic suit outlined and highlighted in black and gold cufflinks, leaning on a startlingly white cane in front of him. His white hair combed back and styled neatly. "Welcome to my humble abode, adventurers. I apologize for the unpleasantness of my underlings. Please step into my office so we may talk this out like the cultured folk we are." Now, let's face it, I don't think any party is gonna take him up on his offer. If they do, follow the book. You can continue from that point on to play Usith as a highborn noble who is used to getting his way, until the players decide to attack or cast a spell. That's when you tell them to roll initiative, and under no circumstances do you acquiesce any request of, could I activate my insert OP magical item or class ability here? The answer to that question, after you say roll initiative, is always a resounding no. You don't have time to proc anything before battle begins because everyone is on high alert. Any attack, any magical spell being cast before you say roll initiative sets off the fight. They didn't stealthily approach. They didn't have a surprise round. Everyone was on borderline hostilities waiting for the pin to drop. If you say yes to one ability, then every single one of your players now has a right to say, well, if he can proc that, then I'd like to proc this. And you'll suddenly have a very one-sided fight because abilities that needed actions to be procced are now available at round 1 and the enemies were not able to respond. If you let the enemies respond with an action so as to make the fight fair before the battle actually begins, your players will relentlessly attack you as to why that doesn't make sense narratively. Remember, your players will almost always seek an advantage before battle. And if they stealth their way into it, then sure, they get a surprise round or something similar. If not, well then, tough luck. Remember, the DM should have fun too, and using these monsters in a marginally fair fight that makes it look like the players are going to lose but don't actually lose is part of that fun. You don't want to use monsters that get steamrolled in 2 rounds. Now that roll initiative has been called, here's a checklist of things you need to remember while you're running this fight. The lair actions proc at initiative 20, losing time. No phantasmal force, just grasping tide and brain damage. Usith will never go into melee. He will always move away and kite the party and will use a legendary action to tail swipe anyone who ends their turns near him. He'll use Psychic Drain when he reaches half health and begin to run away. Usith is smart. He won't run in to Sacred Guardians. He'll focus spellcasters and ranged fighters, especially someone who is concentrating on spells, such as protection from good and evil. The Scum or Marrow prioritize pulling the levers, and then they enter the fight. The Marrow can be hit out of their charm state. The Scum cannot, as they are full-fledged Aboleth thralls now and are permanently under his control. This allows Usith to heal up if the players ignore the Scum, which they'll come to regret. The enslaved thralls are mindless and will attack the closest target unless Usith spends a bonus action to tell them to target someone specifically. The grates in the water can be forcefully pulled out to decrease the water levels. When the levers are both pulled, they force the water level to rise 2.5 feet every round. By the end of round 2, your players will be swimming, unless the levers are shut off or the gates in the water are broken. By the end of round 4, the whole place will be submerged. Any flyers above the water are fully under it at this point. If you have a party of 4 or 3 players, then Usith has used his enslave feature earlier in the day on other people. If your party consists of 5 and above, then he has all 3 uses of enslave. If we are using the standard Aboleth stat block, please give them 3 legendary resistances, max out their HP, and if they hit with all 3 tentacle attacks on the same target, then that target is restrained. His tentacles can be destroyed much like a Kraken's. Hey look, more foreshadowing, but he doesn't take damage from them being attacked, and wouldn't be stunned if a monk uses Stunning Strike on them. Just make sure you tell the monk that the Stunning Strike won't work on Usith if they hit the tentacles. If they ask why it wouldn't, just say it's how their biology works, and you should be good as a DM. If you are using a homebrew Aboleth or a Netherdeep Aboleth, then I'm afraid I can't really help you there, as I haven't used them yet. For that, I'll point you towards Enter the Dungeon, who has a really immaculate video on damage calculation. I've used it, and ever since then, I haven't looked back. It'll be in the quest ward below. Don't forget to read up on underwater combat, because this advantage underwater is what allows Usith to be such a menace in combat. Last but not least, you can certainly increase the number of thralls to make the fight more challenging for a party of 5 or 6 or even more. If you're crazy and you want to DM 7, 8, 9, 10 players, I don't know how you do that. If you do that, please teach me, Sensei. Just for reference, the way I've made this lair, let's say, and the encounters and all, my party of 3, what level were they? Level 9? They were looking for Hector, so it's level 9, beat the encounter against Usith and 2 Scum without having to kill the Scum. After they've fought the Kuatoa and the Otyug and took a thrashing from the Glyph of Warding. So it's very doable. It's very doable. They ate but it's very doable. Now for the treasure. To keep things brief, I will stress one point I always try to abide by when calculating treasure. I go and give magic items that are tailored to my players. I don't care what the adventure or the DMG say. If I have a monk in my party, they're gonna get bracers of defense and a dragon hide belt eventually. Sprinkle items and armor and weapons that can grow with the characters. Take a look at Matt Mercer's Explorer's Guide to Wild Mounts vestiges of divergence, or arms of the betrayers. In Mythic Odysseys of Theros, you have artifacts. And Fizban's Treasury of Dragons has Dragon Wrath weapons. These are all amazing examples of what good magic item progression looks like. In the case of players getting here from Golden Fields or Tribor, have a decent stash of magic items, weapons, and stuff for them as rewards. They deserve it. Potions of water breathing could come in clutch if they blitz towards the room during the fight and decide to drink this random deep blue colored potion. Don't give them Giant's Bane just yet. We have a surprise coming up for that in Zymorvan Hall. If you are using this adventure as a different means of finding Hecaton, then you should add some letters that are encrypted. Let's say a letter that has a musical notes written on it. And when the musical notes are played, you hear a message that says, "The Storm King is in the fogs of the purple rocks, hidden from prying eyes." Along with some neat magic items that the Aboleth has been hoarding. At this point, your players are level 9. Don't skip out on the magics. And when they finally leave Yartar after this amazing, well-written adventure, second day out, giant floating cloud castle drops, and Zephyros walks out and says, "Excuse me, are you the..." Insert party name here. And he'll take them on to Everland or Zymorvan's Hall, whichever they'd like to get to first. So, to sum things up, have a different plot hook for a party that's coming from Tribor. Follow the adventure to a T for a party that's coming from Golden Fields, or use this adventure instead of just intimidating Dryland for the information. 2. Follow the adventure to a T when going onto the ship and during the interactions on it, because it's amazingly well written. How many more times do I have to stress this? Go and buy it. You will not regret it. 3. Use the Phantasmal Force Lair action as a regional effect instead. That would give the players glimpses into Usith's mind and dreams. Is it obvious how hard of a time I'm having saying Usith's stupid name? 4. Improvise a solution for the slime that they have to navigate around. If it narratively works, you know what I mean? You can feel it. You can feel it. 5. Usith's human illusion is a snob, but he's a snob that's ready for battle. 6. Don't let players activate abilities in front of Usith without rolling initiative, because everyone is on edge and ready to fight at the drop of a hat. 7. Underwater fights are what Usith wants, so drag them into the water and keep the level rising. 8. Tailor the treasure to suit your party. Don't give out Giant's Bane just yet. Keep it at Zymorvan Hall. And if you use this instead of Dryland to find Hecaton, then have a note with an encrypted message that says the Storm King is in the fogs of the purple rocks, hidden from prying eyes. 9. Beef up the encounter more if your party consists of 5 to 6 players. 10. Most importantly, have fun, because at the end of the day, that's all we're really here to do. If you like this video, then please hit that like button, make that subscription check, and send it to all of your friends. Stay tuned for more videos about D&D weekly, and follow my Twitch page to catch my streams. This is Gamma Rays, over and out. P.S. I would like to apologize for leaving you all hanging like that for the past few months, but I promise things will change. Expect a Streamlining SKT video every week. If I'm able to, I might just add in some more videos here and there about monsters that I like, how my current campaign is going, and you know, like diaries and all that jazz. Anyways, thanks for sticking by me and asking for more videos. I'll try not to disappoint you again. Bye-bye.